Beautiful. So, do you want to do the opening introduction
Yes,
for us?
indeed.
Yes.
Good afternoon, listeners, viewers alike. We wish you well. This is our weekly podcast, The Alien Spaceship, where we discuss a variety of things on the agenda. My name is Trevor Gear, and he calls me Bruv.
And I'm Emmy Hickins, and he calls me Cuz. Welcome to the Alien Spaceship. Yeah, so today we're going to be discussing this woman called Norah Vincent. Have you ever heard of Norah Vincent?
I think I've heard of her. I
No.
can't say I know anything about her. Is she an author, something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
that
she
I
is
don't.
an author actually.
Is she an
Yes.
author? Yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what she writes or
Yeah,
whatever.
she was famous for her 2006 Self-Made Man, where she disguised herself as a man
Oh
for
well,
18 months, and for her she was also known for her long battle with severe depression. Now, I'm just going to give you a few sort of points on what the book is about. So, The Self-Made Man. So it's an experiment that she did. And then she disguised herself as a man named Ned, using a vocal coach, fake stubble, and male clothing. She visited all male spaces like bowling league, strip clubs, and a monastery. And then she suffered a severe mental breakdown and checked into a psychiatric facility right after the project ended.
really.
Yeah, wrote about her mental health struggles and institutionalization in her 2008 book, Voluntary Madness. Um, Now, what I can't really work out about this woman called Norah Vincent is, did she have a mental illness before embarking on this project? Or was her mental illness as a result of
Yeah.
trying to be a man? So I
It's the
can't
old
really work
chicken and egg thing again, isn't it? Chicken and egg.
it
It
is.
really is.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. How difficult is it to be a man, bro? Do you think? How?
Wow. That's a leading question. Can I just clarify that she wrote two books, I think you said.
Yeah,
Self-Made Man was the first
yeah,
one,
yeah,
and then she wrote Voluntary Madness.
yeah. In
But when
2008.
did she go into a mental health facility? Was it in the middle of those two, or was it after both of those books?
So it says she wrote about her mental health struggles and
Yeah,
institutionalization in her 2008 book, um, Voluntary Madness. So
right.
she wrote the book after her mental health struggles, and
Okay.
yeah, so she wrote it in her book. So the first one was written in 2006, I think he said. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the self-made book was in 2006, and it's a tragic ending actually. So she died by assisted suicide on July 6th of 2022. She was aged 53 in Switzerland, obviously. Now, like I said, how difficult do you think? I
Yeah.
know, I know it's a very difficult question. It's an obvious one, actually, because when you think about being a man, you think, well, you're born a man. And there's that song, now I can't remember the singer, but it says it's a man's world. It said
Yeah.
it's a man's world, and men made this and men made that, and it won't be complete without a woman or a girl, which is true. But then he says, but then is it really a man's world? Is it a man's world because the man carries the brunt of the whole, or a man is more at a disadvantage? Or is it a man's world because a man is more at an advantage?
Wow. You'd have to choose some subjects, cuz. Have you got to spare a couple of days? Now, that's a hard one. I mean, again, just so I understand the background here,
Yeah.
Norah Vincent, self-made man. Can you explain at all what was she trying to say? Was she trying to say that it's not a man's world? Obviously, she's a woman. She's
Mm.
dressed, disguised as a man. I mean, it'd be quite interesting actually to read that book if it's still there, out there. So
Yeah.
I might have a look for that just to see what she's trying to say. Do you know what the point of her book was? Was it to say that it is a man's world and that as a woman and for women, life isn't so straightforward? Do you know what she was trying to do or to say there?
I think, hang on a minute. Let me see if it's much longer. Um, I think there's an answer to that. Hang on. Struggle with
If you
it.
don't know, then
Yeah.
I'll let you know
Um,
what I think about being a
yeah,
man.
yeah. I don't really know that question. That's a very good question, actually. But I didn't really, well, obviously, I've not read the book.
Mm,
But I didn't really read into why she must have
no.
done that. But when and it's a really rubbish thing to assume because I assumed she was trying to prove that being a man was, as good as being a
Easy.
woman, or easier. It's easier for
Yeah,
the man, because they don't have to, as women would say, you don't know the pain of childbearing, which is true.
yeah,
We can never know that. And we don't know what it means to be, I say this with a great deal of caution, PMSing, where, they have the menstrual cycle. So there'll be quite a lot that is in there.
mm,
Um, and that's what I presumed when I saw it. But your question is made me think, could she be trying to prove that being a man is actually not as easy as women think,
mm,
as the end result would prove, actually? Which would be a more practical view to
yeah,
to take, when because despite the things that women go through in life, because women would say, well, we have to stand up and, um, we don't know, and it's true, we don't know we don't know the pain that women experience when it's not pain, so, but the fear that women experience at night when they go out on their own. So they can't really be free as men to go out where they want, to be out as late as they want, which is true, to an extent, because men do get attacked as well. So if it is on those points, then I would sort of agree with her in a way. But has she proved it the other way around? Has she actually proved it the other way around by committing suicide, being depressed to the extent that she thought, you know what, his life is not worth living. But couldn't she just
mm,
revert to being a woman? Because she's already a woman. Just go back to being a woman. You're not actually biologically transitioned to be a man,
mm,
if not according to the book anyway. So she's not transitioned to be a man. She took a few vocal lessons. So there was no, according to the book, according to the article, there was no, what's that word? There was no clinical procedure
no,
to actually change the vocal sounding.
no, no,
So it's much of a dress up as a man, really, dress up as a man, It doesn't work for you. Go back to being a woman. It's as simple as that. That's what I thought anyway. But it's not as simple as that, is it?
Why did she go to Switzerland? I mean, was it depression that made her want to end her life?
So our sister died
Yeah,
in Switzerland. That's why I think that one's pretty much self-explanatory there, because I think Switzerland still remains the one of the few places in the world where assisted dying is allowed, really. So
legal.
I
Yeah.
would say that that's why she'd gone to Switzerland. Yeah, so over to you, brothers. Let's hear your view.
Well, yeah, it's a big subject, isn't it? And at
Mm,
the end of the day, it comes down to um, men and women, and it comes down to walking in somebody else's shoes, doesn't it?
mm, mm,
Because, and it's always an amazing thing to realize, even though it's obvious, but every human being that ever walks or that ever lives now,
mm,
the world revolves around them in their head, around all of us, doesn't it? We are the very center of the universe
mm,
in everything we do. We can only be ourselves, and sometimes that kind of thought progression, you could almost get a bit anxious, a bit uptight, that
mm,
we're all trapped in our own heads. You can't escape thinking, you can't escape things that are happening, thankfully, automatically, voluntarily. The body does it for us. So it's not as if we have to think to remember to breathe or to blink. To live, thankfully, we go through our lives without this over sense of being conscious. Most things through our brilliant brains are on autopilot. But that is the bottom line. Everybody is unique. Everybody, every human being comes at life from a unique perspective and unique position, because
mm,
nobody on this earth has ever or ever could understand what it's like to be Trevor Gear,
mm.
because as the song says, there's only one Trevor Gear. No, there's not a song. That's kind of a football song, isn't it? There's only one, whatever. But there is only one of each of us, which is an incredible thought, given that there are, what is it, 8 billion people on the planet now, possibly more than that.
Mm,
So that's a start point here. And of course, ever since time immemorial, as the phrase goes, there's been this discussion, I don't say argument, but this debate about, is it better to be a man? Is it better to be a woman? And by better, it means, is life a bit easier if you're
mm,
born male, or is it a bit easier if you're born female? Now, of course, it can work both ways. I mean, so much depends on where we're born, when we're born, what era of life, if you like. We've been born in the 20th, 21st century.
mm,
Others will have been born hundreds of years, thousands of years before us. Many will be born. Possible people now will be born very much in the future. But this is our number of generations together on the planet at this time of life. And yeah, there is this debate, probably more so in the last 30, 40, 50 years than there's ever been. Whose world is it? Is it really a man's world? Is it a woman's world? And I guess if the truth be told, most men, I might be wrong in this, most men will probably say it's a woman's world, and vice versa. Many women would say, oh no, it's a bit easier for the men. But as I say,
mm,
that thought process, it can only come from your own experience. There's a saying, isn't there? And I think there's been music to this effect. Women are from Venus, men are from Mars, or
mm,
men are from Venus, women are from Mars, which I mean really sums up the debate between the two, because the fact is, it's like comparing apples and oranges. If
mm,
you're not comparing like with like, and so it is with men and women, we can't really say, well, it's much easier being a man because women don't have to do this. But then women quite reasonably would say it's actually much easier being, what they would say being a man. A man would say it's a bit easier being a woman. We have to go out to work.
mm,
Um, of course, those stereotypes have gone really to not completely, but the idea of the man going out to work, the woman staying at home if there are children, looking after the kids and getting them to and from school, getting them dressed. But even if they're not, if there's no family there, if they've not had children, there's still those roles. And I gather a perennial moan of women, understandably, is that men don't do enough by way of chores around the house or,
mm,
where they live, their home. And I'm sure that is based in a lot of facts going back over some years, and it may still apply. Now, as to me personally, what do I think? Well, I suppose at best I can say, having never walked in a woman's shoes, because that'd be too small for me, I suspect, but having never done that, I can't realistically say, well, yeah, women have it better. I can only go on my gut feeling, my intuition, which I always have had a lot of trust in my intuition about things. What
mm,
I do perceive is that, as a general comment, and these things can only be general comments,
mm,
as a general comment, I think more women are happy in their own skin than men. I think there is less men of the man brigade who are content. I think there's a lot more, sometimes dissatisfaction, sometimes unease, perhaps in the last, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years, because of the feminist movements,
mm,
where women quite rightly wanted, demanded equality in so many ways that they hadn't been equal to before. We go
mm,
back, as we talked about before, the suffragettes, and they got the vote in 1930 after years of fighting for that. And it's
mm,
hard to believe now that they never had the votes. It's hard to believe that women were banned, I think, until 1972 for 50 years from forming football teams. They couldn't play football in any organised way. That was completely banned. And so when you start looking at those things, what women have had to fight for in this world, most men might well say, yeah, to heck with the generational differences, the fact that we're men and women have had it tough. And I think perhaps what I would say nowadays, that pendulum has come, let's say, down the middle. There's
mm,
much more equality. Some women go out to work and a man may stay at home to be a house partner, a house husband, whatever, looking after the kids even. That's not so unusual nowadays, I think. So
mm,
it can really work both ways. Women, I mean, if you go to Saudi Arabia, women only in this last year or so have been allowed to drive. Now that's horrendous, isn't it? And there are
mm,
still countries around the world where women are treated very much as second or third class citizens. But we can only look at it from our point of view. And I think there is a good equality nowadays amongst men and women. Perhaps it's not finally there, but it is a
mm,
bit like the feminist battle was won. They achieved, I'd like to think, pretty much what they set out to achieve. But part of the consequence, I think, for men, for a man,
mm,
is that it's often said we don't quite know where we stand now. Do we hold the door open for a lady? Do we sort of say after you? Because there have been instances where a woman would say no, after you. And not claim that what's the word, that courtesy from a
mm,
man. Oh, you're looking down on me if you think that, which of course is not the case. But for my part, I don't think I would ever be different. I've always been, I like to think, courteous by nature to everybody, not just, and like you, I'm sure most of us would say, we don't just let a door slam in somebody's face, whoever they are.
yeah,
Courtesy is a price that's there. It was something we all ought to have instinctively within ourselves. So yeah, if a woman said to me, "Well, no, don't hold the door for me," I'm equal to you, I'd say, "Well, okay, only trying to be doing the right thing." But I've never experienced that because I think
yeah,
most women appreciate a man or a woman who's polite, who's courteous. That's the sort of environment we want to live in, isn't it? People around us who have a similar view of courtesy. We can only get on with each other to make life good, decent, and fair.
mm,
So it's a difficult question you ask. What is it like to be a man? Um, yeah, I feel as an individual,
yeah,
I feel there are disadvantages to being a man, and
mm,
I'm not. I don't think that is the predominant view in my mind. It certainly isn't. Equally, I don't feel. And I feel very settled in life. I do. I'm lucky. I'm born on the right side of. We have enough to eat. We live in I hope, a still decent country.
mm,
of so-called relative freedom we have to live our lives. So I count myself having many blessings. I do, and I think that is a good start point. If you have a sense of gratitude for what you are, what you have, your family, your friends, your colleagues, and all those things all go together to make up a comfortable, decent life. But of course, everybody also has things they would rather weren't there. So
mm,
yeah, I'm very much on the side that I'm very fortunate, very blessed, and perhaps I will conclude by saying that I've always kind of revered women, probably since I was small, and my mother was a very decent lady. Um, and as you said about women, not all of them nowadays, but or any time, not all have children, and nor should they be forced to have children. I think less and less women nowadays have children for their own reasons, perhaps economically, perhaps we're going through a stage where people think, well, what sort of world am I bringing my children into? So not all people have children, but those that do, it is a heck of a thing, isn't it, to say, I've brought new life into this world. And I sometimes think when you see, and I mean, it's true of my own family, or it was when I was married, but
mm,
you see a mum walking along, with her 16-year-old son or daughter, and they're a bit bigger than she is. And I think, does she ever think, oh, well, those, they've come out of me. They've actually come out of my body. I mean, I
mm,
never ever asked my wife then that question. Did you ever think of it like that about our kids when they get big and you say, gosh, I've given birth to those. Incredible, incredible magic, really. So yeah, women have got a lot to be proud of, and I can understand why they do feel generally more comfortable in themselves as a woman. I think there's almost more of a sisterhood than
mm,
we guys have a guyhood or brotherhood. I think
mm.
it's much more commonly accepted to look after your sisterhood. But yeah, there's pros and cons to it all. It's Venus and Mars, I would say.
Yeah. Thanks, bro. That was very, that's very, very comprehensive. That's more than I expected. Now
You are still awake there, are you? Sorry, I didn't mean to
I
send you to
I
sleep.
am, yeah. That's what I said. I said that was more than I expected. The way that yeah,
That's your
yeah, well.
diplomatic way of saying I said too much. I know.
No, 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 no. I was just thinking, you got to be. It's one topic that you have to be cautious about, isn't it? So if somebody's brave enough to, talk about it. But anyway, now There are a few things that I noted in it, and I just thought, does she have a kind of a misconstrued view of men? And I'll give you an example of what I noted. Now it says she visited all male spaces like bowling league, strip clubs, and a monastery. Now, do men, do modern day men visit places? Let's start with the strip clubs, for instance.
I thought you were going to say the monastery. Do modern day men visit the monastery? Well, if this is a sneaky way of asking me whether I go to strip clubs, cuz that's a bit below the belt, if I may say. But, but let me assure you, for whatever it's, if I did, I might say, yeah, occasionally we have a boys' night out and we do that.
Right,
If I did
right.
that, I'd say so. But no, it's not within it's not within my gift at the moment to go to a strip club. Um, when I was younger, a young married person,
Yeah,
sometimes some guys got together for some sort of function at, I don't know, the football club, and they did have a stripper. I mean, I'm talking of years ago, and it
right.
seems very archaic now. It certainly does to me, having not really been to them for years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did go a couple of times to that sort of thing, so I understand what they're like. But
Hmm.
I don't get the feeling they are very 21st century. Perhaps I'm naive there, but to me, it's sort of so last century, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. I think there's much better ways to spend your time, and with all the facilities of computers and our mobile phones, our gadgets,
Hmm.
places you can visit. I mean, yeah, I don't think that they are much of a going concern these days. But as I say, what do I know? What about
Yeah.
you? What's your view on that?
Well, I'm going to be very honest. I've never actually visited a strip club because it's never something that I find interesting. I just look at it and I think, well, I thought, honestly thought it only existed in movies. I just thought movies, because movies,
Mm,
they have to go a little bit over the top in movies, just to portray and make it more entertaining, oh yeah, he's going to script club and he spent this and he spent that. Nightclubs, however, I have been, um, which no, there's not much difference, is it? Because the way that people still dress to nightclubs is very skimpy in a way. I would say, well, who knows? Maybe it's changed. I don't know. But that was when in my younger years when I was proper, just wanting to explore things and see things and stuff like that. But I didn't think that strip clubs defined men these days. I think she got it
no,
wrong
I
there.
don't think they do. Yeah,
Yeah, I think she got it wrong there. So let's look at the other one. So the other one is a monastery, which is your favorite one, which is the one that you was waiting for. Do you think it defines men these days, monastery? Call it a church or a place of worship. Does it
yeah.
does it describe men these days? Is that, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I don't. I don't think it's a very good example at all for
Mm,
somebody who's trying to paint a picture of a man's world, a
mm,
monastery. Of course, there are people who, you know, get a calling for that vocation and they will become a monk or whatever,
mm,
involved in the church and their religion. But
mm.
I don't think monasteries feature very highly at all. So you say she wrote that book in like 2006. I
Yeah.
probably would have said the same then, that I don't associate monasteries with anything like
Mm,
any percentage of men. You will always get a small number of men who go into that, as you would women going into a convent. But
mm,
yeah, I don't think that's particularly. I'm not sure she'd find out too much by if she went into a monastery. I'd be
mm,
interested to know. As I say, I may buy the book, or go to the library and find it,
mm.
because I'd be interested to know what her purpose. What would she expect to
Okay.
find in a monastery apart from the monks? And it wouldn't be good if it was a silent order of monks, would it? Because she
Yeah.
could ask them questions and they wouldn't be allowed to speak. So I just don't see the relevance of her going to that. But as I say, without knowing the background to why she was doing that, it's hard to
Mm.
criticize that, isn't it?
It is, yes, it is. Yeah, I thought about that as well. Now the other one was a bowling league. A bowling league. Would that be classified as a sports? It is a sports, isn't it? Bowling league. Now I don't know. All right, so we know this woman is in Europe, according to the thing. But wouldn't she have been better going off to a football club, a football match, rather than a bowling league? Um,
Well, yeah, again, a football match, you would find it's not really a particularly male place, not dominating it. I mean, I
no.
guess there probably are more men at football matches and boys, but nowadays you
Mm,
get quite a big percentage, probably 40, 50% are women and girls as well.
mm, mm.
Particularly when you look at the women's game, that's predominated by women and girls, I would say. So yeah, a bowling league. Again, I don't know where she lived or what was she? Was she British? This woman? Do
Um,
we know?
yeah, we only know that she, you know, passed away at Pegasus Clinic in Basel,
Right.
Switzerland. I'll have to do a bit more research on. It'd be interesting to know a bit more about this lady, wouldn't it? I mean, I looked at it on the surface and I thought, wow, what a great, great thing to talk about.
Mm,
Or I suppose I should have looked into it more in detail. But then, even if, all right, so let's say, for instance, just for conversation's sake, she wasn't European, she was American. I say she's American. Um, Even in America, bowling league still doesn't sound like the sort of place that men, it doesn't sound like a sort of place that men would necessarily go to. I'm not saying men don't go to bowling leagues, but going to a bowling league in America, you have football, don't you?
mm.
Uh, Soccer, what
American
it
football, yeah,
American football, sorry, yeah, American
yeah.
football, all American football. And then of course you have baseball and you have basketball. So there's about three sports there that she could have chosen rather than a
Mm,
bowling league. Yeah, so that's America. And if you go to
yeah.
Asia, and I'm not being stereotypical at all about Asian sports, but if you go to Asia, say for instance, let's say India, for instance, you would still not have a bowling league. You would have a cricket club, a cricket.
Yeah.
That's where men would go to. So you'd have cricket. And places like Australia, New Zealand, you would still have something like a manly sports like rugby. You'd have rugby. You'd have cricket as well. You'd have cricket there. And in England, you'd have cricket. In Europe, generally, you'd have a variety of sports, basketball being one of them for Eastern Europeans. And then for places like, Europe, well, mainland Europe, you'd have football. So I think she got it wrong there by the bowling league thing. I read that and I thought a bowling league is not necessarily a place.
No, what
Yeah.
surprises or what makes me wonder was her motive. Now, did she go along to these places disguised as a man? Excuse me, because she hoped she would hear men sort of being very misogynistic, for example. So she could write in
Ah,
her book, yeah, I went to the monastery and they were really anti-nuns. Well, I mean, that's their sort of misogyny. I mean, that would
yeah.
sound ridiculous. But equally, going to a genuinely or generally male
Mm,
domain, she, did she really think she would hear a lot of men, you know, criticizing women, sort of slagging them off, for want of a better word? And
mm.
if that was her motive, and as I say, we're between us, we'll have to find out. I will try and find this book.
I will as well. Yeah.
Um, because it seems to me, if she was disguising herself as a man, she was doing that because she wanted people to think she was a man, and therefore they were free to speak as men. And
Yeah.
it's quite interesting because there's a very good song from some years ago by Dave Edmunds called Girls Talk. And it's a
Mm,
great song, really good upbeat rock song. And it starts off by saying about women talking, not just about lipstick and powder. And the guy listening says, oh, I thought I heard my name in their conversation. And he was basically saying that women, girls do have their own girl talk. And I suppose, you see, I was going to say, of course, as men, we have man talk.
yeah.
But I don't know that we do. When you think about it, I think men have been quite criticized, sometimes fairly, sometimes not, for adopting a wolf whistle culture. Now, I
Mm,
don't know about you, I've never wolf whistled anybody, but that used to be a thing, and a lot of women were dead set against that. But I'm also mindful. If you're reading a magazine story or a letter to a magazine, a lot of women say, "Oh, I actually feel quite good when some men on a building site whistle at me because it makes me think, oh, I must be attractive to them." So again,
mm,
this idea that all women don't like that. I mean, it may depend more on context. Is it dark, or is it a load of guys just leering? I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't want that, but just a fairly harmless wolf whistle, I would have thought, could be quite acceptable to many women. So
mm.
I just don't believe nowadays, because that's all kind of been outlawed, if one ever did it, which probably the likes of us never did. It's I don't think I can only speak from my own experience. I mean, I've got some guy friends. We do two or three things like golf. We play pool, we play chess, and stuff like that. We
Mm,
get together for a drink sometimes, and I can't say there's any part of what we do or talk about that is kind of putting our heads together talking about women. It
mm,
doesn't, let alone derogatorily. So if this lady was going into male settings, maybe when she did it 20 years ago,
mm,
maybe there was more misogyny about. Maybe she did want to write. Well, yeah, listening to the guys at the bowling league, God, things they used to say about us women. Maybe it did. But my own perception, and we all live lives in our own traffic lane, don't we? It's good
mm,
to get out of our lane sometimes, and it's good to do
mm,
that. But we can only react to what we hear and see and do. So
mm,
I don't think there's currently a culture of rampant misogyny amongst
mm.
male groups against women. I'd say the opposite is probably true. I think my experience, most guys I know think the world of women,
Yeah,
either their partner or whatever, a previous partner.
yeah,
They do. So it's like nothing to me. It's nothing to see here. I would have said to her, look, nothing to see here. Everything's great. Everything is going along well. But
yeah.
again,
I
I
think
always
that's
say, what do I know? What do I know?
I think that's a much more accurate description of what men or how men feel about women. Because I don't remember sitting in the midst of some guys and talking derogatory about women. I don't remember that. Maybe as a boy. Maybe as a boy, you talk about girls and you say, "Oh yeah, what does she think she is? She thinks she's this and that and that." But as a man, it's totally
Mm,
different because men have responsibilities. Men are grown-ups, I hope, and men are a bit more respectful. Because then you grow up and you realize you've got a sister, you realize you've got a cousin, you realize you've got a niece, realize you've got a mother. And some men are lucky to have daughters. And so you just think, no, 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 no,
mm.
no. So I don't really understand where that sort of thing is coming from. And obviously, I think what I would have loved to see from Nora Vincent, late Nora Vincent, is perhaps go into a working class women's life, sort of, and go out with a girl, date a
Mm,
girl, actually,
mm.
and tell us how, what she feels about men. But anyway, let's hope another woman takes it from where she left off. You never know.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject. As I
It
say,
is, it is
you've whetted my appetite for the book. You
it
really
is,
have.
yeah.
Self-made man. That sounds
Yeah, self-made
very
man.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
self-made man, and what's the other one? Uh,
voluntary madness.
Voluntary Madness. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
sort of sums it all up, don't it? Anyway, this is all we've got time for on the Alien Spaceship. Join us again next week for another as we bring you more interesting topics on the Alien Spaceship. I've been Emmy Hickins, and he Cuz, calls me Cuz.
Yes, quite right. I do, and I'm Trevor Gear, and he calls me bruv.
It's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me too.
Okay, so.